Today marks the opening of OTAs, or off-season training activity. And as such, today, at least as I see it and some others see it, marks the real beginning of whatever's to come this fall. Good morning to you. Good Tuesday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Daily Shot of Steelers. It comes your way bright and early every weekday. If you're into hockey and or baseball, I also offer daily shots of Penguins and Pirates in the same place that you found this. The football team will take to the field at a little bit before noon at the UPMC Rooney Sports Complex on the south side. I'll be over there covering it for DK Pittsburgh Sports. I'll be looking for a lot of little different details. But more than anything, what I'm most eager to encounter over there wouldn't have all that much with what's happening out on the field, but rather a lot more to do with what I hear from these guys as they're coming off. Because I want to hear, I want to see, I want to sense the kind of urgency that really should be accompanying this season. I've brought this up with you a few times on this program in recent weeks, and there's not always agreement with me on that, judging from the feedback that I get in the comment sections. When I say that I see this as a pivotal season, as a season that closes your window or anything like that, I get a lot of pushback to it because it really doesn't line up with the way we've been defining such seasons for years now. And that's always been, how much longer is Ben Roethlisberger going to be around? Well, it's not that simple now. The way I view this, I'm looking at the defensive side of the ball, not the offense. Everybody's always focused on the offense. I'm looking at the defensive side of the ball when I think about urgency in windows. I'm looking at Cam Hayward in his mid-30s. I'm looking at TJ Watt still at his career peak, but not at his career peak forever. I'm looking at Minkah Fitzpatrick, who really should be the best safety in the NFL if he can stay on the field, which he didn't do this past season. I'm looking at Joey Porter Jr. I'm looking at Alex Highsmith. Looking at Patrick Queen now. Did you remember that Patrick Queen is on this team? I'm looking at Keanu Benton rising up as a year two guy. And what I'm looking at in general is a defense that really should be special. I don't know that they will be. I don't know that they've got that chemistry. I don't know that Mink is going to have that support at safety. I don't know about the other starting outside corner position. I don't even know who the nickel's going to be. But I do know that if you can put together a defense that has a handful of names like the ones that I just rattled off to you, it should be special. And it probably won't be special for all that long. Because you're not going to have a Cam, a TJ, even a Minkah for all that much longer. Not at the height of their powers. And from there, you're watching these guys out there on the field. They're going through their walkthroughs and their shorts, and I can do a head count of the number of players on that field. Out of all those guys that'll be out there, I can do a head count on the number who've won a National Football League playoff game in a Pittsburgh uniform. And do you know how many I'll be able to count? I'll give you a second. It's a fun trivia question. The number of players who will be out there for the opening of OTAs today who will have won a playoff game in a Pittsburgh uniform. You ready? It's one. It's Chris Boswell. Yeah. And Bos actually single-handedly won that game in Kansas City, if you'll recall. He had all the points. Cam Hayward was part of that team too, but Cam won't be at OTAs, as we all know. So we're talking about here, if you strip away all the outside stuff, all the drama about the head coach, the assistant coaches, the various narratives that come up here and there, and if you strip it down to the individuals involved, and I'm okay with doing that once in a while. I understand it's a team sport, but I also understand that individuals make up the team. And I look around this group and I see Najee Harris, never won a playoff game. Pat Freiermuth, never won a playoff game. We could keep doing this. It's a long, long list. And if these guys aren't operating with their own individual mindset, that I've been in the league X number of years now, and I have never won a playoff game. That's a button that if I'm Mike Tomlin, I'm not just pushing on it, I'm jumping up and down on it to make sure that everybody gets that reverberation. Yeah, believe me, this conversation generally and fairly begins and ends with Tomlin. All right? He's the main constant out of this. I'm not trying to deflect from that. No head coach should go this long in the NFL between winning playoff games, much less one who's been blessed to have a defensive player of the year and other luminaries on his roster in that time. But it's okay for the players to feel that too. It's okay for them to look in the mirror and say, I've been doing this how long? I've never won a playoff game. And when I have made the playoffs, it's been like 40-10 losses, you know? It's been absolute blowouts, like by the end of the first quarter, game's over. So let's start seeing, hearing, and reading some of that from them as well. When we come back, J1Q. This segment of Daily Shot is brought to you by our good friends at Mike's Beer Bar. They're located on Federal Street, directly across from PNC Park. Mike has more than 500 beers on tap, including from more than 50 local breweries. Stop in and say hello. Tell Mike we sent you. Mike's Beer Bar. Today's J1Q comes from Frank, and it comes this way via an Instagram message, and that's unusual, but I am going to share with you after I get through this question and answer what's the best way to contact me for these J1Qs. Frank asks, DK, why all the talk about wide receiver 2? Isn't Pat Freiermuth option number 2? Well, yeah, Frank, he could be. And I've brought that up myself. It's something that I'm going to bring up with Pat when I run into him this week. He can be that guy. I don't think we have to look back very far to remember what he's capable of doing when he went to Cincinnati and beat the Bengals pretty much by himself. That was the game where you'll recall that Matt Canada had just gotten fired, and Kenny Pickett and Pat hooked up, I believe it was 9 times for 150-plus yards. The Bengals had the most ridiculous defensive alignment, something a lot of the Steelers, even Mike Tomlin, kind of hinted at it after the game, that if they're going to give us all that and they're going to give us number 88 all day, then we're going to take him all day. That wasn't the case when the Bengals shortly after that came up to Pittsburgh. But Pat is a real live target. Pat is a real live pass catcher. Pat, here it comes, you knew this was coming, needs to stay on the field, okay? And believe you me, when we talk this week, that's what you're going to hear from him as well. He's very much aware of this. He doesn't like it. He doesn't joke about it either. But he, like Najee Harris, is heading into a contract year, and he would want numbers to bolster his own cause, and he is stepping into an offense, per Arthur Smith's own history, that very much favors usage of the tight end. And I'm talking liberal usage of the tight end as a pass catcher, in addition to all that rough and tough stuff that he wants out of there. So yeah, Pat can be that guy. But to look at your question and the way you've phrased it here, all I see, Frank, is that you think everything is going to go just perfectly with George Pickens as your number 1 receiver, and don't really worry about number 2, and then have Roman Wilson just rise up as a rookie, and then from there hope that everything is just pristine and nobody gets hurt and nobody gets caught in some, negative wave of performance or being double teamed, or, if an opponent lines up against George, for example, and just says, you know what, we're taking him away. You can do whatever you want with the rest of your guys. We're taking George away. Now what are you doing? Is Pat your number one guy? You see what I mean? You're going to need more weapons than this. Whether that's external or internal, that's not my job. That's their job to make sure that they have those. I don't believe that they do. I'm open to being wrong. I appreciate the question. I appreciate everybody who listens to Daily Shot of Steelers, and I am excited to be bringing you original material from over there for tomorrow's show.